Welcome to MindSpill. Today, we're diving into the origins of one of the most legendary names in entertainment history, Marvel Comics. I had to divide this topic into two videos since it ended up being a lot larger than I expected. This is the first part of the two. In this episode, we'll uncover the story of how Marvel began, the iconic characters who helped shape its legacy, and the groundbreaking choices that made Marvel the comic book powerhouse it is today. So, grab a seat, hit that like button, and let's begin our journey through the Marvel Universe. Our story begins in 1939 with a company called Timely Comics, founded by Martin Goodman. Back then, superheroes were just starting to captivate the public's imagination. It was a time when larger-than-life heroes symbolized hope, resilience, and justice. Timely Comics saw the potential in this new trend, publishing a new wave of superhero stories. Timely's first hit characters were unlike anything readers had seen before. One of them was the Human Torch, an android who could ignite his entire body in flames. Alongside him was Namor the Submariner, a character who could live both in the sea and on land, wielding powers drawn from the ocean. And finally, the Angel. He is a costume detective with no superpowers. He is among the few such heroes to wear no mask, and in his Golden Age appearances makes no effort to conceal his identity. These three characters alone set Timely apart by introducing complex, human-like struggles for their heroes. But the true star of Timely's lineup arrived in 1941, Captain America. Created by writer Joe Simon and artist Jack Kirby, Captain America became an instant sensation. And why? Because Steve Rogers represented the ultimate patriotic hero during the tumultuous days of World War II. Captain America was a scrawny young man who was physically weak but had an unbreakable spirit. After taking the super soldier serum, Steve transformed into Captain America, becoming the embodiment of American values and bravery. His debut issue, famously showing him punching Adolf Hitler, captured the spirit of the time. Captain America wasn't just a character, he was a beacon of hope during the war. As the 1950s rolled into the 60s, Timely Comics evolved into what we know today as Marvel Comics. Led by editor and writer Stan Lee, Marvel embraced a new era, often called the Silver Age of Comics. During this time, Stan Lee teamed up with legends like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko to create some of the most iconic superheroes in history. The Fantastic Four, Marvel's first superhero team, debuted in 1961. They weren't just superheroes, they were family. Readers could relate to their personal struggles, their arguments, and their loyalty. Following the success of the Fantastic Four, Marvel introduced a stream of new characters, many of whom became cultural icons. The Incredible Hulk, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, embodied the theme of inner struggle and anger, with his transformation from mild-mannered Bruce Banner into a giant green behemoth. Spider-Man, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, was a teenager who had to balance his high school life with the responsibility of being a superhero. His debut in Amazing Fantasy issue 15 set him apart as a hero that readers could relate to. Thor, created by Stan Lee, Kirby, and Larry Lieber, introduced a hero from Norse mythology. Despite his godlike power, he grapples with personal issues like family loyalty, identity, and his sense of duty, making him relatable to fans. And then, 1 year later in 1963, Iron Man was introduced in Tales of Suspense issue 39. Iron Man was a wealthy industrialist with a complex personality, symbolizing the blending of technology with human vulnerability. The same year, Marvel introduced X-Men, who were mutants who faced prejudice, reflecting real-world issues like discrimination, which resonated with readers during the civil rights movement. And finally, they brought us the Avengers. Marvel's first official superhero team, uniting popular characters like Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Ant-Man, and Wasp in one storyline. This team set the foundation for Marvel's shared universe and the concept of heroes banding together for larger threats. Unlike DC's fictional cities, Marvel's heroes lived in New York City, making the stories feel grounded in reality. This interconnected world made Marvel Comics feel like a single, epic saga where the fate of one hero could impact the lives of others. In the 1970s, Marvel began to experiment with bringing its heroes to the screen. Television was the big frontier at the time, and Marvel was eager to introduce its characters to a wider audience. One of their first big hits was the Amazing Spider-Man live-action TV series. Although it only ran for a couple of years, it brought Spider-Man to life and showed audiences what was possible with superhero storytelling on TV. Around the same time, Marvel's most successful series of the decade, The Incredible Hulk, took off. This series starred Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk and Bill Bixby as his human alter ego, Dr. David Banner. Ferrigno's transformation scenes, where he literally turned green with rage, made him an icon of the era. The show tackled themes of isolation and loss, which made it more than just a superhero show. It was a drama about a man struggling with the monster inside him. Marvel's journey wasn't without challenges. By the 1980s and 1990s, Marvel faced serious financial trouble, eventually filing for bankruptcy. Desperate for funds, they sold the film rights to some of their biggest characters. Sony acquired Spider-Man, Fox Movies bought the rights to the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. These sales kept Marvel afloat financially, but they also meant Marvel's characters were split between different studios. This move provided Marvel with a temporary financial safety net, but it also created a future hurdle. With each major character assigned to different studios, it would eventually become challenging to tell unified stories across these properties. Little did Marvel know that the success of these films would create a renewed interest in their heroes. The early 2000s were a turning point. Sony's Spider-Man in 2002 and Fox's X-Men in 2000 were box office hits. These films showed Hollywood that superhero movies could be huge, not just with comic fans but with mainstream audiences. Marvel saw how much audiences loved their characters on screen, but they also saw the limitations of licensing their heroes to other studios. The profits were shared, and the creative control wasn't fully Marvel's. Marvel learned that to tell the stories they wanted, they would need to regain control over their characters. As a result, in 2003, Marvel took a gamble, forming its own studio with a goal to create its movies, starting with heroes they still owned. This move was very risky. If they failed, they'd lose everything. But if it worked, Marvel would gain control over its destiny. Marvel's first major challenge was choosing the right hero to launch their new universe. Instead of starting with a household name like Spider-Man or Wolverine, they went with Iron Man, a character who was popular among comic fans but relatively unknown to the general public. It was a bold choice. Casting Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark was another risk. Downey's personal life had been filled with ups and downs, but his charisma, humor, and edge made him perfect for the role. Downey's portrayal of Tony Stark set the tone for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, combining wit, intelligence, and vulnerability. When Iron Man hit theaters in 2008, audiences were captivated. But Marvel had a surprise in store. After the credits rolled, a brief scene showed Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, meeting Tony Stark to discuss the Avengers Initiative. This wasn't just a teaser, it was Marvel's way of saying they were building a larger world, something no one had attempted in movies before. This was Marvel's secret weapon, a shared universe that would connect individual heroes and stories into one epic saga. Fans were thrilled, and the excitement only grew as Marvel announced more films in this connected world. So, that's a wrap for today's video, guys. We've explored how Marvel's journey began and how the success of Iron Man set the stage for a cinematic revolution. In Part 2, we'll dive deeper into how Marvel built a massive franchise from the success of their first movie. So, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, it really helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and stay awesome.